Thank you very much, President Jacob Zuma, Premier Mabuza, Minister Angie Mutsecha, Minister Lulu Xingwana, all the leadership here present on this stage, leaders of political parties. I would like to, before we start, indicate that I will be managing the program with MEC Manana, MEC for Arts and Culture in Mpumalanga. My name is Paul Mashatile, Minister of Arts and Culture of the Republic of South Africa. We want to start by apologizing. As you can see, we're starting a bit late. The weather is not very good in Gauteng. It's raining, a lot of storms. It was a bit difficult for the president to take off, so we'd like to apologize. We will try and speed up the program so that we cover time lost. So I'm going to appeal to all the speakers to be conscious of that so that we don't make our speeches too long. At this stage, let me therefore ask my co-program director, MEC Manana, to come and take over this part of the program and try and run with it. MEC.
Malibongwe! Malibongwe! Kulesikhathi samanje ngizocela uPremier waseMpumalanga ubaba uDidi Mabuza ukuthi eze ngaphambili azosivulela lo mcimbi ngokomthetho and asamukele la eMpumalanga njengondunankulu. Baba Mabuza.
Program directors, Minister Mashatile and MEC Manana, siyabonga ithuba enisipha lona. Sanibonani. We want to take this opportunity on behalf of the Mpumalanga Provincial Government to welcome the President of South Africa, Mr. Jacob Zuma. President, welcome. We want to also take this opportunity and welcome all our cabinet ministers in our midst, members of parliament, not also forgetting leaders of the different parties that are represented in parliament who have graced this day today. We feel honored and privileged for being chosen as the hosts of this important event, the event where we're celebrating the National Women's Day. Program directors, allow me also to extend our welcome to all our mothers, our daughters, our girl children who have managed to come and grace this occasion today. To the wonderful people of this province, thank you very much for coming out in your numbers. Your presence here in Thulamahashe is a testimony that today we are truly celebrating an important day in our political calendar, the National Women's Day. Once more, Mr. President, and the entire cabinet, members of parliament, you are welcome, Gule province, Mpumalanga. Thank you very much.
Asibonge kakhulu kundunankulu waseMpumalanga ngokusamukela eMpumalanga. Uminister uPaul Mashatile beshilo ukuthi kukhona ama political organization akhona ngaphakathi kwethu kukhona ama political organizations akhona ngaphakathi kwethu. I-ANC ikhona izosipha ama message of support. Sizocela upresident we-Women's League obuya ku-ANC sibe ne-APC umama uGodi uzomlandela emva kwakhe, sibe ne-AZAPO umama uNoku no Ruka, sibe no baba uSmart Ngonyama obuya ku-COPE, kukhona uPrince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, upresident we-IFP uzosipha message of support, sibe neqembu elibuya ku-UCDP from Northwest umama uTsekofa uzolandela emva ka president we-IFP, bese siba nomama uThandi nondeka obuya ku-UDM. Ngizocela ke ukuthi balandelane ngalendlela engibabize ngayo ukuthi beze ngaphambili basipha ama message of support.
Malibongwe. His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, honorable ministers and MPs, premier MECs, MPLs, leaders of the different political parties, comrades and friends, please accept revolutionary greetings from the ANC. This indeed is a special day for us women. We want to take this opportunity to thank the President and the ruling party for prioritizing this historic day. President Zuma always supports programs and campaigns for sustainable women's development and gender equality. The ANC has indeed shown its resolve to work tirelessly to create a better life for all women in our country. We are committed to creating a non-sexist society because it is in building this society that we can dismantle patriarchal structures of our society. And during this Women's Month, we always pay tribute to gallant women. We review progress towards women's emancipation for gender equality. And this year, President, 2013 Women's Day is special. It's in the year where we celebrate a centenary of women's struggles for liberation and remember the heroines of 1913 who marched against past laws and the Land Act and a host of unjust laws. These heroic women who stormed the Union building on the 9th of August in 1956, we should mobilize the nation to confront burning issues that disempower women, like gender-based violence, sexual harassment, and the marginalization. But in spite of all these challenges, we want to acknowledge, as women of this country, that a lot has indeed changed since 1994. Our triumphs, President Zuma, I guess, will articulate. But as women of this country will always defend the rights of women to equality and justice, we'll continue working with women and patriotic men to advance the gender agenda and to defend the rights of women. We believe that working together as a nation, we can defeat gender violence. We all have a role in the socialization, particularly in the teaching of our children. We welcome work of individuals and non-profit organizations that have made it their civic duty to confront gender violence and join forces with us as women to work for women equality. We wish every South African the most fulfilling Women's Day and a new resolution and commitment towards women empowerment and women emancipation. Malibongwe!
Malibongwe. Thank you, program directors. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Department of Sports, Art and Culture for... I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Department of Sports, Art and Culture for hosting this historic event here in Thulamahashe. As the African People's Convention, we hereby say that we are celebrating this day with you, unlike in the olden days, whereby the space of women was in the kitchen. Now that the women of the 1956 stood up to fight for the rights of women, we are today celebrating and we are also reaping the fruits. We can see that by looking at the council chambers in our local municipalities, where women are there in the forefront, and we also look at our legislatures and also our national departments. Not forgetting that there are some private sectors whereby if we look around, we are able to see the mixture of men and women. As we talk about empowering the women, the position of the APC is that as women we should become lifelong learners, because we have observed that there are still those women who could not write and read. Therefore, the ABET is there to go and help them. As the APC, our position is that as we're talking about the empowerment of women, we are also calling upon the PWMSA to join hands at all time, not to secure or empower the women who are educated or those who are in urban areas, but also to look down upon those women who are in the rural areas. We also hope that the men and women that we see that are climbing the ladder, we condone as the APC that pull head down syndrome. With those few words, I would like to say we support the 1956 as well as today's program. I thank you all. Thank you, Malibongwe. His Excellency the President of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, the Minister of Arts and Culture, Mr. Mashatile, the Premier of Mpumalanga, Mr. Mabuza, MEC Manana, I greet you, Nabahlali Balapa Mpumalanga and nationwide. I greet you all in the name of Black consciousness as an ideology and movement that teaches about pride and self-reliance and complete emancipation. It is more than a centenary that the women of this country stood and fought side by side with men when we were fighting against apartheid. We not only stood and fought against apartheid, but we fought even before the apartheid during the time when the settlers came and took ground on our shores. With the dawn of 1994 political dispensation, we find ourselves still in a struggle as a country to find food in our own country. The women of this country have proven their worth politically and as well as in business. But the success of these women does not only, the sad part is that it does not reflect on the demographics of this country. Majority of these women do not find pleasure in celebrating these days because they have not received anything and they have not benefited anything. Well, whilst our women, majority of our women do not have water and basic sanitation, we say freedom has not come to those women. Our society do not value the contribution of women in our country as well as in our homes. Hence the gender-based violence. We cannot focus on women that have influence in our country but forget about the ordinary women who are voiceless currently. Incidentally, in governance, we're still failing our women. Women that marched in 1956 did not only fight against past laws, but the restoration of the dignity of the black women. In a country which we call our own, we still do not have land, hence we don't have access to basic services. The beggar mentality that has been created in our country does nothing for the improvement and the creation of a strong economy. The 28% of women who are decision makers, coupled with the 40%, means that 60% of women that are unemployed in this country, which we know majority of them are black women. Azapo Women is encouraging our women to teach our children properly, empower the boy child together with a girl child so that we do not breed a society of monsters through our boy children. Unless we empower our women and get rid of all these social ills, there is nothing to celebrate on Women's Day, as majority of our women are still oppressed in their own country. To our fathers, brothers, uncles, lovers, please do not hate us, just love us. Malibongwe!
Forward with the women, mighty women of South Africa, forward.
Forward.
Mr. President of the Republic of South Africa, program directors, ministers, leaders of different political parties, the Premier of the province, and all South Africans in this stadium and elsewhere. We say we salute you on this special day as we celebrate by gathering here to commemorate women's struggles against patriarchy, against oppression and against exploitation. We are here to remind all of us, especially men of our country, that we defeated apartheid because of various struggles waged by women. And those women of South Africa were in the forefront and in the trenches of our struggle. We remember in this regard the late Comrade Maxeke, Comrade Sisulu, the late Comrade Ruth First. As we remember these, we must also remember that after 1994, women of South Africa continue and still are subjugated. As they suffer from exploitation at the economic level, stats show that the unemployment, poverty, and the poor working conditions are more prevalent amongst women. Every day, every hour, and every minute, our women, our mothers, our sisters are being raped and killed. Mr. President, comrades and friends, this situation indeed has reached a crisis point, and therefore an extraordinary steps needs to be taken. This is also due to stereotypes of how we raise our children, especially the boy child. He is raised to be violent, is raised to be hard, even by the toys that are forwarded or are provided to him. He is given guns and implicitly becomes violent. The girl child is raised to become a victim, subservient, and to become a server. In our homes, schools, and in all walks of life, let us find a formula to stop this. Equality must be real from the early stages of human life. Our children must be raised to respect one another. Equality must become a reality. At the same time, South Africa has been celebrated because it set a good example with regard to reconciliation and nation building. However, we must know that we are still in bondage as long as women of our country are still oppressed, exploited, and abused. O.R. Tambo left us with that as a reminder. We salute all women of our country in their daily struggles, and especially those that have made a breakthrough. Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who represent us at the AU level, Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, who represent us at the UN level, and Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi at the ADB level. Mr. President, would like to say, as the Congress of the People, all of us must be united and count on us in this particular struggle of abuse against women. I thank you all. Amandla.
Your Excellency, our President of the Republic, MEC Manana, Honorable MEC, Honorable Minister Mashatile, Minister of Arts and Culture, and MEC and leader, and also Director of Programs, the Honorable Premier of the Province of Mpumalanga, Honorable Minister Xingwana, Honorable Minister Micheha, Honorable Ministers present, Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament, of Legislatures, Khosi, the Khosi, present, mayors, and all of protocols observed. Fellow South Africans, on this day we remember the 20,000 South African women who marched to the Union buildings in 1956, taking with them 100,000 petitions against the injustice of Dompa's laws, in defiance of a government that dictated where a black person could be, when they could be there, and how long they could stay. These courageous women marched to the office of the then Prime Minister, Mr. J.G. Strido. The Dompas was not like the NID book. It was issued only to black South Africans and contained the name and address of the employer, who could only be a white person. It contained documented permission to be in a specific area at a specific time, permission that any official could cancel at whim, leading to arrest and possible imprisonment. The Dompas was the symbol of our oppression. Thus, on National Women's Day, we remember the stand taken by South African women against oppression, and we honor the legacy they've given to us, reminding us to fight for freedom always. This year we look beyond 1956 to a centenary of working together towards sustainable women empowerment and gender equality. I am privileged to have witnessed 8 decades of change in our country, from the subjugation of women towards the imperative of women taking their rightful place as equal citizens with equal dignity. But I have not witnessed these changes, just witnessed them. I've been part of making them happen, and that has been the real privilege, Your Excellency and colleagues, and so well articulated in the latest autobiography of one of our greatest freedom fighters, Mrs. Winnie Nomzamo Mandela, in her latest book, 491 Days, Nobandla. Long before gender activism was born in South Africa, I recognized that women had a vital role in society that cannot be limited to the home and the family. Women were the backbone of our liberation struggle. They are the backbone of political mobilization and must become the backbone of moral regeneration in our country. Women have an invaluable contribution to make to science, to the economy, business, politics, medicine, the arts, industry, and every sphere of life. I have always acted on these convictions, During the apartheid era, as soon as we had limited legislative powers in KwaZulu, I tackled what was called the Code of Zulu Law, and I removed provisions that discriminated against women and considered them to be minors. Thus, for the first time, black women were granted property rights. I also expunged the barbaric provision that gave a husband the right to administer corporal punishment to his wife. Abuse of women is not a cultural thing, it is pure evil. Through Inkatha, long before liberation, we empowered women with skills, training, and financial assistance. From the beginning, Inkatha placed women in leadership positions so that when we came to Kempton Park for negotiations, the IFE delegation had more women than any other delegation. These were expressions of our commitment to gender equality and women empowerment. Today, although we are a multi-party democracy representing a multitude of voices, when it comes to the gender issue, we must all sing from the same hymn sheet. And that is why it is such a privilege, Your Excellency, to be here with you as our head of state and with ministers and other leaders to sing from the same hymn sheet. Because of my long struggle to empower women, it was a particular privilege in 1994 to have had the ministerial responsibility as Mr. Mandela's Minister of Home Affairs to declare the 9th of August the National Women's Day. On this day, we look to the legacy of our past to give us inspiration. It saddens me to hear women say, we know where we come from, but we don't know where we're going. Issues like rape, abuse, poverty, and violence are clouding the road ahead. And unless we get rid of all these, we can never say we're truly free. As South African women take a stand against injustice, as they did in 1956, let us all rise and stand united. This is the hope of our future. And to all women present, not only in the podium, but all of them present here today, and to women at our homes, I say, no, 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 no. No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Program Director, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers present today, Honorable Members of Parliament, all protocol observed. Allow me to congratulate the women of South Africa for coming out of their secluded corner and open up to the whole world to show their God-given talents. Coming from the Northwest Province, I shall be remiss if I cannot cite the resistance sustained by the women in the Zeerust area when they protested against the past laws, where the then white regime unleashed their strongest forces to deal with them. It is in that spirit that we make a point that women contributed in a large measure to the betterment of the lives of fellow South Africans. In South Africa, we have proved that women can break the proverbial glass ceiling, as shown by women like the late Mrs. Mavis Matladi, may her soul rest in peace, who was the leader of the United Christian Democratic Party. Dr. Mampili Rampili, who was a director at the World Bank, Honorable Mlambo Nduka, who is heading the Women's Affairs at the United Nations, and Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who is heading the African Union, to name but a few. women are conscious, committed, dedicated, hardworking, have patience to do things even in difficult times. They have perseverance and ultimately they achieve whatever they set out to do. Let us support each other in everything we do and learn from one another. Bomma, let us join hands, work together and make South Africa a better place. We have instances where projects and schools have been started by women because women wanted schools for their children. There is a school named Basadi in honor of their initiative and efforts. Everything starts with you. Be an anchor of your family. A well-rounded family with values can weather off the storms in life. We must discipline in everything we do. Currently, as women, we are faced with challenges of poverty, broken families, substance abuse, which distract our focus from building our capacity. We are very much worried about the increase in drug-related incidents in our country. Innocent lives are destroyed, and week after week, parents bury their children, often related to this scourge. We asked to tighter security at our schools and regular police patrols to guard our children from these drug lords that are making a living from destroying our children's lives. The increases in rape of our children is a sickening factor, and hope to see the perpetrators of these heinous crimes brought to book and receive the harshest sentences. As women, let us join hands and fight against all this. Our children should be able to see how we do things, so as to follow in our footsteps and be disciplined citizens of our country. They are the future leaders of South Africa. Let us respect one another. The way we talk, the way we do things, all this speaks a lot and reveals our characters. We should be cautious at all times and have one voice in all we do. Let us pray for our country, even if we have different political parties. Let us uphold the ideal of working together towards sustainable women empowerment and gender equality. Let us strive to make South Africa a better country. On behalf of the United Christian Democratic Party, I wish you a happy Women's Day. Thank you.
Program directors, the Honorable President of the Republic, ministers and senior government officials and national province level, honorable guests, fellow South Africans, fellow leaders of other political parties, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of United Democratic Movement Women's Organization, I acknowledge the fact that since we attained our political freedom in 1994, great advances have been made in South Africa regarding gender equality. We are amazed to this day by what the brave women leaders of 1956 did. 20,000 women under the inspired leadership of people such as Helen Joseph, Helen Kuzayo, Lillian Goyi, Albertina Sisulu, and Ruth First did the unthinkable at a point in time when people went to jail for less. They stood up against a government that deemed them even worse than second-class citizens. We must learn from this extraordinary display of political strength, female solidarity, and inner fortitude. As women leaders, we must take responsibility for this legacy and blaze the trail for those who come after us. In fact, we are very proud of the women who occupy leadership positions in many sectors of our civil society and business. Dr. Nkosazana Zuma and Ms. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka are excellent examples of South African women who have been internationally recognized as leaders. Congratulations and good luck, sisters. As we hail our achievements, we must, however, admit that we have not completed our mission and we still have a long way to go. Gender bias and discrimination remains an unfortunate factor in our country. In various sectors of our society, large gender disparities exist between men and women. In fact, our mothers and young women, particularly in rural areas, remain at the margins of economic activities. Another issue close to UDEMO's heart is the abuse of women and children. We welcome the sentencing of Mudimule Monster because it sent a clear, unmistakable message to those criminals who abuse their positions of trust, have no respect for women, and do not see anything wrong with verbally abusing, beating, and murdering a woman or a child. Mr. President, since the Ministry of Women, Children, and People with a Disability is your brainchild, please crack the whip and have the ministry and the department properly fulfill its mandates. In addition, the budget allocation to this department is not adequate. We are concerned that other departments have a much bigger slice of the cake. For instance, the sports and recreation budget is much larger than that of women, children, and people with disability. Does this mean that we do not take the work of this department seriously? As UDEMO, we are also concerned about the level of skills and capacity of those deployed and employed in this department. Aside from its primary mandate, Mr. President, the department might do a better job of communicating if they had a functional website. Neither of their two websites is working. As we reflect on this year's theme, we salute South African women who continue to contribute to our children, our societies, and South Africa's future in creative and sustainable ways. But we must not think that the successes of the past guarantee a worthwhile future for South African women. We must be vigilant and not rest on our laurels. We cannot disappoint the women who pass the baton to us, and we cannot fail our girls and their daughters. As women leaders, both in the UDM and UDEMO, we commit ourselves to a centenary of working together towards sustainable women empowerment and gender equality. Wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo. Ngiyathokoza.
Thank you very much from the political leaders from different political parties for their messages of support. We are moving on with our program. The next item that is going to follow now, I would like to call upon our Minister of Women, Children, and People with Disability to say hi to us as our Minister. Amandla!
Malibongwe! Igama lamakhosikazi. Program Directors, Honorable Minister Mashatile, Honorable MEC Manana, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, the Premier of Mpumalanga Province, Honorable Didi Mabuza, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, the Honorable Mayor of Ehlanzeni District and of Bushbuckridge Local Municipality, MPs, leaders of political parties, councillors, amakhosi aphakathi kwethu, igama lamakhosikazi. We are meeting here today to celebrate and pay tribute to the stalwarts of 1913 led by Charlotte Manya Maxeke and the 1956 heroines led by Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Sophie de Bruyn, and Rahima Musi. We are here to honor the giants who challenged the might of an oppressive and brutal regime, unarmed, defenseless. Their only weapon was their vision to see a truly non-racial, non-sexist, equal, and democratic South Africa. Our democratic, non-racial, non-sexist government has adopted progressive laws and policies towards women empowerment since we came to power in 1994 under the leadership of President Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. We have a constitution that has been affirmed by the whole world as one of the most progressive, in particular when it comes to affirming the rights of women, children, and people with disabilities. Our Constitution is the foundation upon which our policies and laws are based. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa defines in detail our vision of a society that strives towards a united, non-racial, non-sexist, prosperous South Africa. The centenary also coincides with the centenary of the Native Land Act of 1913, where women in particular were deprived of access to land. We are, however, very happy to note that the ANC government has prioritized ensuring women will have access to land. As a department, we're working very closely with the Department of Rural Development to ensure support and access to land by rural women in particular. We're also in partnership with the Department of Trade and Industry, Economic Development, Social Development, and many other departments to ensure that women have access to resources to enable them to produce on their land. Siyazi ke thina ukuthi njengasisebenza namakhosikazi asekhona amakhosikazi anamaplazi amnikwa nguye lo hulumeni. Siyazi ukuthi aseqalile ukuzikhiqizela alima umbona wawo, amazambane, awoklabishi babo, kanti banazo nengulube, nenkomo, nenkukhu abazifuyile. Abanye ke omama nabo bexhaswa uhulumeni bayenza umsebenzi wezandla beziphilisa. Njenganisibona nje sigqokile sibahle, amablouse wethu athungwe omama lapha, nalamaroko wethu amahle athungwe omama lapha yana bezenzela. Sithi ke asisukume singamakhosikazi sakhe ama-cooperatives, sakhe amabhizinisi ethu amancane ukuze uhulumeni azokwazi ukusthelela. Siyazi ukuthi iminyango ngeminyango o-agriculture, o-trade and industry babimbambisene nomama ukuthi baqale imisebenzi. Sithi ke wena ohlele khoneni uzothola kanjani? Asisukumeni ke sizenzele. Sikhathazeke kakhulu ke by the scourge of violence and abuse against women and children in South Africa. We then launched the National Council Against Gender-Based Violence, which has started with its program. Kule nyanga yamakhosikazi sizobe silontsha uvikela campaign ngayo i-National Council ukulwa nalezi gebengu. Sililizela kakhulu masibona ojaji bethu bebopha ama-rapist, izidlwengu nezigebengu ezifana noMudimule Monster, 2 life sentences. Sithi siyabonga kuJudge Bam, 1 life sentence for rape and 1 life sentence for murder. Sibonga no Minister of Justice kakhulu ovuselele lama sexual offences courts esazi ukuthi azogijimisa kakhulu lama cases abhekene nokudlwengulwa nokubulawa komama nabantwana. Sihlanganisa futhi with the lesbian women who have been raped and abused in our country. Mangizohlala phansi ngifuna ukuvumelana no baba no dadewethu nathi sithi lili ku Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the first woman chair of the AU Commission. Sithi lili ku Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, who was appointed Executive Director of UN Women, kanye no Geraldine Fraser-Mleketi, the Special Envoy of the African Development Bank. Thina ke singamakhosikazi eMbokodo sijabula kabi ngoba siyazi ukuthi baphuma la kulombutho wesizwe, baphekwe la kulohulumeni wabantu. Ngalawo mazwi ke sithi Happy Women's Day. Siyabonga. Malibonga.
Siyabonga Minister Lulu Xingwana. Malibongwe. Malibongwe. Wathinta abafazi. A happy Women's Day to our mothers, to our daughters. Comrade President, before I invite you to come to the stage, there are sisters here who want to show that they too can do it with their bikes. So, but before Kuluma, bafuna ukudlula la babulisi. Ngizobanikeza ke 2 minutes because I want to make sure that we cover some time. Our sisters on the bikes, it's your time to come and greet quickly. And then the theater lions, I'm going to bring you after the president. So don't worry. So you're going to come after the president. Then I'm going to have, just before the president, I'll have Imbongi, Sis Patience Ndlovu, Asondelela next to me. The bikers, our sisters, just show us ukuthi lento ase amadoda kuphela. We are succeeding with gender equality and empowerment. Albongwe. Phambili ngama-bikers phambili. Siyawathanda ama-bikers, siyawathanda. Phambili ngama-bikers phambili. Sis Patience ukuphi? Okay, we are now going to allow our sister Patience Dlofu to welcome the President of the Republic of South Africa to the podium to address the nation. Patience.
Yitlangela vamanana va Afrika-Dzonga. Vamanana etinghozi ta Afrika-Dzonga leti ti nga yima ti khomelela ti yimela Afrika-Dzonga ti yelwela erixaka ra vantima. Hi ri khani mambo eka vamanana, khani mambo eka tinghozi ta vamanana va Afrika-Dzonga. Ngomalala, ngomalala msholozi. Ngivumele ngikhulume, ngivumele ngihube, ngivumele ngihlabelele, ngivumele ngihalalise ngisho izibongo zakwaZuma. Ungitsongondongondo nesimilo, uyingonyama, uyingonyama, uyingonyama. Uyirisile hi vutlhari bya wena, uyiendle vanhu hi vutlhari bya wena. Oye endle vanhu hi vutlhari bya wena. Ngomalala wabambelela wagijima ngamandla emzabalazweni usekele makhosikazi ukuze izwi lawo lizwakale. Ngomalala uyirisile hi vurhangeli bya wena. Mpumalanga ekutsekatsekisiwa hi mfumo wa xihlawuhlawu. Uyimile u tiya u ya nghwasi loko van'wana va tsandzeka. Uyimile u ri nena ya tinena. Uyimile u ri nena exikarhi ka madzolonga eka tinyimpi hinkwato ta Afrika-Dzonga. Uyimile u ri nena. Uyimile u hlurile madzolonga, u hlurile xihuri xa vutomi. Uyimile u humelela eka xihuri hinkwaswo. Uyima u tiya nghozi ya Afrika-Dzonga. Msholozi exigigi xa vurhangeli bya wena bya twala eka timbilu ta Afrika-Dzonga, bya twala emananga, bya tala evugigi bya vurhangeli bya wena byi twarile eka timbilu ta Afrika-Dzonga. Hi ku unena msholozi, unena ya tinena. Uyingisile rito ra vamanana, u xiximile mintirho ya vamanana. Uyivekile mahlweni eka vurhangeli bya wena. Unena ya tinena msholozi. Evito ra wena ri ta tsundzukiwa eka ANC National Executive Committee. Exigigi xa wena xi ta twala eka tinxaka hinkwato. Msholozi, ngomalala msholozi, nena ya tinena, nena ya Afrika-Dzonga, nena ya tinena, nena ya tinena. Uyimile loko van'wana va tlhelela ndzhaku. Ngomalala msholozi, maphuma phethe zandla zombili. Nina abakomantomela kamnaba okuthi uma bafokazana befinyele nina nibe nimile nithethezekile. Ngamala msholozi sengishonile abakaqhongoqhi kajiyajiya ngamalala wena wasemkhosini lena yathi lena tsimbi kayigojwa msholozi bulabula nena yathi lena bonga ekabantu bawena msholozi mashiya mahle
Bitana President Jacob Zuma Swiss. It's my honor to invite President of the Republic of South Africa, President Jacob Zuma, to come and address the nation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Hey. Kanimambo. Hey, siyabonga. Thank you very much. Directors of the program, Minister Mashatile and MEC Manana, ministers who are present here today, Premier of the province and other premiers who are present here today, deputy ministers who are present here, MECs who are present here, mayors who are present here, leaders of all the political parties present here. I always feel on days like this, if we are all here as political parties, that indeed we have one objective, to see our country moving forward, to put our country first. Thank you very much for your messages, very constructive. This is what we would want to see continuing in our country. Religious leaders present here and traditional leaders, members of National Parliament of both houses, National Assembly and the NCOP, members of the legislatures of all provinces, veterans of the liberation struggle, leadership of the women's organizations present here, women in all leadership positions in government structures and the private sector, those who are giving leadership in those areas, fellow South Africans, compatriots, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Abshein. We gather on this day every year to celebrate the heroism of women who marched to the Union buildings on the 9th August, 1956. The year 2013 is special, as we are marking 100 years of women's struggles for liberation from all forms of oppression in this country under the theme, and I quote, a centenary of working together towards sustainable women empowerment and gender equality, unquote. Today, we recall the struggles of generations of women towards the achievement of a free, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa. Women had begun protesting against beer halls around 1908, but the first major milestone took place on the 23rd September 1913. The extraordinary Charlotte Maxeke led about 700 women on a march against past laws to the mayor's office in Bloemfontein. Founding ANC Secretary Sol Plaatje visited those arrested in Kroonstad prison. He wrote in the Tshala Earbad to publication after visiting these women. He said, and I quote, "They do not care even if they die in jail. They swear they will cure that madness. They will stop their protest only when the law prevents policemen from stopping and demanding passes from other men's wives," unquote. These were women who were determined, who knew what they were doing, who were ready to go as far as they could to ensure that the oppressors stopped what they were doing. In 1914, the government relaxed the women's pass laws and the resistance ended in 1914. In other words, as they had told Solplake, indeed, they protested until the regime relaxed their actions. In 1918, the government threatened to reintroduce pass laws for women, and the protests continued. That same year, Charlotte Maxeke started the first formal women's organization, the Bantu Women's League, which later became the ANC Women's League. It is very important to note that women who were party to that action, having protested, having taken actions, having been arrested, they felt it was important to form an organization so that they can form a unity in action under an umbrella of an organization. An able leader, Charlotte Maxeke, initiated the first organized formation of women. That's why we can stand here today and celebrate the role played by women in our struggle. It's not a small one. In October 1913, just a month after the Charlotte Maxeke March, a group of Indian women, passive resistors, led by 16-year-old Valiama Modlia, began defiance activities by hawking without licenses in Vereeniging. They crossed the Natal border and encouraged the Indian and black coal mine workers in Newcastle to strike. Valiama was later arrested, found guilty, and sentenced to 3 months in prison with hard labor on the 22nd December 1913. She had taken ill in prison and died on the 22nd February 1914 after her release. Life in prison had been too harsh for a 16-year-old girl. Announcing her death, Mahatma Gandhi said, and I quote, "So great was her enthusiasm for her people that she gave her life for them," unquote. It is absolutely important that on this day we remember all these heroines. Women's struggles continued, and amongst the key activities were the following, waged by women. A march in 1930 in Potchefstroom against lodgers' permits. A march in February 1954 by about 700 women to the administration building in New Brighton Township, Port Elizabeth, against residence permits. A protest by 1,000 women in October 1955 in front of the Native Administration building in Durban, and around the same time, hundreds of women marched through the streets of Cape Town against permit regulations. We also recall the 1957 anti-past revolt by women in Zerast and the struggles by women against beer halls in areas such as Ketomeno in Durban in 1959. The 9th August 1956 march by 20,000 women to the Union buildings, organized by the Federation of South African Women, was the biggest. Last month, we launched at the government printing works in Pretoria 4 smart identity card printing machines, which are named after the 4 remarkable leaders of the march: Sophie Dubrain, Rahima Musa, Lillian Ngoyi, and Helen Joseph. In this way, the contribution of women to the struggle for equal citizenship and to freedom of movement and association in this country was further enshrined. We celebrated that special moment with Ms. Sophie Dubrain, the only surviving member of the leadership corps of the 1956 historic march. Women continued to play a key role in the struggle after 1956 and suffered immensely over many decades. Women in the 1960s and 70s and 80s faced even more severe police brutality. Many were jailed and persecuted, and many became the face of the resistance against the vicious apartheid regime. Women such as Winnie Mandela, Albertina Sisulu, Sister Bernard Nube, Fatima Meer, and a host of others. Some women joined Umkhonto weSizwe and took up arms to free their country, and many served prison terms such as Thandi Modise, Marion Spark, Barbara Hogan, and others. This indicates that in every generation and phase of our struggle, the women were there. Indeed, women were not bystanders in the struggle to free this country. They were active participants throughout the years. Thanks to the struggles of women, our country's constitution recognizes women as equal citizens with equal rights and responsibilities. The democratic dispensation also continues to be driven by this sensitivity to the rights of women, recognizing women's rights as human rights. We acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do to achieve full equality and also to improve the living conditions of women and the status of women in public and private sectors. But a firm foundation has been laid. Our country has specific objectives for women's empowerment. Women must participate actively in the economy as entrepreneurs and also as workers, depending on their choice and circumstances. Violence and the abuse of women and girls must come to an end. More girls must take up science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and more education opportunities must be made available to women and girls. We want to promote access to land ownership by women in order to promote food security for many households in distress. We want young women to develop their self-confidence and to seize leadership opportunities. Women should play a role in the ongoing pursuit of all these goals and should not just be beneficiaries. I would like to report briefly on some of the progress made and also work that is still being done to achieve these goals. With regards to women's access to decision-making positions, the South African Parliament, which had a mere 2.7% representation of women before 1994, now has 42% since the 2009 democratic elections, following consistent improvement after each election. This puts our country in the 4th position worldwide with regards to women's representation. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report of 2012. We have 13 women cabinet ministers and 16 women deputy ministers. Out of 9 premiers, 5 are women, which means the majority of provinces are governed by women in our country. We have not reached the 50-50 parity goal, but progress is being made towards that destination. More must still be done to promote equality in the public sector, but even more work in the private sector, which continues to lag behind. The Commission for Empowerment Equity Annual Report 2013 indicated that white males occupy 80% of top management positions in the private sector. At senior management levels, white males account for 69% of all positions. Thus, the achievement of equality at both race and gender levels remains stagnant in the private sector. Government is finalizing work on the Women Empowerment and Gender Equity Bill, which will enforce gender equity compliance with both government and the private sector. Compatriots, besides leadership at decision-making level, we judge our success in terms of access to basic services such as quality health care, education, safety and security, water, sanitation, electricity, roads and housing, which reach the majority of South African women. Census 2011 indicated that access to basic services such as piped water, electricity and refuse removal have more than doubled over the period 1996 to 2011. But there are still gaps that need to be addressed. The usage of electricity as the main source for cooking has increased from 45% to 73% between 1996 and 2011. The profile of households that occupy formal dwelling structures generally depicts an upward trend for all provinces. A foundation has been laid, but more work must be done. The National Infrastructure Program has prioritized the provision of basic services in the 23 poorest districts in the country and other areas where there are still people who do not have easy access to water or electricity. With regards to health care, our country continues to be shining example in the fight against HIV and AIDS with an increased life expectancy. One of our greatest success stories is the remarkable 60% reduction in mother-to-child transmission of HIV from about 8% in 2008 to 2.7% by last year. We also praise women for making up 65% of the more than 20 million people who have to date been tested for HIV and AIDS since 2010. With regards to education, South Africa has achieved the Millennium Development Goal of universal primary education before the 2015 deadline. And our education system can now be recognized as having attained near universal access. We have also achieved gender parity in terms of access to primary, secondary and high education enrollment. We have also witnessed a steady increase in female enrollment and graduation in higher education, especially in the field of science, engineering, and technology. The percentage of female students in these fields grew from 43% in 2000 to 50% in 2009 and continues to grow. Compatriots and friends, while we are making progress, we acknowledge that hunger and food security are still a reality for many households. Inequality in terms of race remains massive, as indicated by the last census, which reported that the income of the average white household remains 6 times that of the average African household. Women bear the brunt of inequality, poverty, and unemployment more. We are making some inroads in reducing the proportion of people experiencing absolute poverty. This we have achieved through, amongst others, social grants, which are the most effective poverty alleviation mechanism of government, benefiting more than 16 million people, especially vulnerable children. Access to free health care in clinics, subsidized housing and municipal services, no-fee schools and school feeding schemes are some of the interventions aimed at alleviating poverty, which benefit women primarily. To attack hunger directly, last year, government launched the Integrated Food Security Production Intervention Program to assist smallholder farmers, communities, and households to produce basic food. The Department of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries, as well as the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, have made available 390 million rand for the food security program. The program will be run over a period of 10 years until 2022. Intensive plowing took place in 7 provinces last year, namely Eastern Cape, Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Northwest. And the harvesting of maize and beans is taking place currently. The program has encouraged people to go back to the land and is running concurrently with the land reform program aimed at reversing the impact of the Land Act of 1913, which rendered scores of black households without decent land for food production and residential use. Compatriots, beyond promoting food security, we want to see women participating actively in the economy. Government has programs in place to support women entrepreneurs, such as Isivande Women's Fund, Bavumile Program, and Technology for Women in Business. Despite this support, women enterprises are still battling and remain trapped in the informal economy. Our research indicates that the slow progress by women owned and run enterprises is as a result of fragmented support mechanisms. Government is exploring the establishment of a one-stop shop for women entrepreneurs that would provide services such as access to finance, markets, information, technology, and infrastructure. Compatriots, improving access to justice for women remains critically important. Over the next 3 years, government will spend 3.1 billion rand on the construction of courts and other infrastructure projects. A further 96 million rand will be spent on day-to-day maintenance and 291 million rand on the rehabilitation of court facilities. To further improve access to justice, this year's legal aid budget stands at 1 billion rand. Government has also increased the value of money that can be claimed in small claims courts from 7,000 to 12,000 rand in order to assist those owed money. Our aim is to have a small claims court in all the 387 magisterial districts. To further improve child maintenance payments, we have introduced the electronic funds transfer system. This year, we have also increased the centers of the payment of guardian fund benefits from 10 centers last year to 29 to date. The value of the fund is currently 9 billion rand, and it contributes to the improvement of the quality of life of thousands of orphaned children. Compatriots, the fight against women and child abuse continues to rank high in our priorities. We announced earlier this week the reopening of sexual offences courts so that we can deal decisively with those who commit crimes against women and children. The courts will complement the work of the police, family violence, child protection and sexual offences units. The conviction rates continue to improve in crimes committed against women and children. A total of 1,194 life sentences were handed out by the courts to offenders between 2010 and 2013. For crimes against children below 18 years, the conviction rate was 75% during the last financial year, and for crimes against women 18 years and above, the conviction rate was 83%. We congratulate the criminal justice system personnel for hard work and the women and children for cooperating with the police under very difficult circumstances. A week ago, I signed the Combating of Trafficking in Persons Bill into law. South Africa will not tolerate such crimes and horrendous criminal activities against humanity. Compatriots, work must continue as well to promote the rights of women with disabilities by ensuring their access on an equal basis to productive employment and decent work, economic and financial resources. Fellow South Africans, on this special occasion of celebrating women's achievements, allow me to acknowledge South African women who are the face of the country in the global arena in various fields. This has been done by the speakers before me, but it is equally important to do it because we are celebrating our successes. In the African continent, we have Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma serving as the chairperson of the African Union Commission. Former Deputy President Baleka Mbete serves as a member of the African Union's African Peer Review Mechanism panel. We also have former Public Service and Administration Minister Ms. Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi serving as the Special Envoy on Gender for the African Development Bank. We are proud of the contribution to the world of our Dr. Navi Pillay, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, and Ms. Rashida Manjou, the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, its causes and consequences. The UN Secretary General recently announced the appointment of former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka as the UN Under-Secretary of Women. Ms. Sheila Sisulu continues to make her mark at the United Nations World Food Programme. We are also proud of our Oscar-winning Hollywood actress Ms. Charlize Theron, who is also the UN Messenger for Peace. Ms. Theron has made herself available to her country to promote the fight against HIV and AIDS, especially amongst the youth and young women. We also acknowledge the hard-working and respected musician, Ms. Yvonne Chaka Chaka, who is the United Nations Children's Fund Goodwill Ambassador. for malaria in Africa, and also the UN Millennium Development Goals Special Envoy for Africa. Both Ms. Theron and Ms. Chakachak are recipients of the World Economic Forum Crystal Award for their humanitarian work. Fellow South Africans, we are proud to be able to celebrate 100 years of women's achievements in building this country. Women from all walks of life and in every corner of the country continue to contribute to the national goal of building a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa. Let us work harder together to make South Africa a better place for all. Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. Happy Women's Day. Thank you very much indeed. Siyabonga. Kanemambo. Thank you.
Albongwe lohanjelwe nguwo onke amakhosikati lavela la eMpumalanga bekakhala ikakhulukati ngekweswelakala kwemsebenzi bengcekweselakalen kwemsebenzi bakhale ngem-crimes noma kuganga lokwenteka kibo njengebantfu besifazane bendela libito lolukhulu ku-president ukuthi a-addresse tintfo letifana naleto.
Take this opportunity to bring the formal proceeding to a close.
President Jacob Zuma there setting the tone for this year's celebrations. In his keynote address, he commended the efforts women have made throughout history in the struggle for freedom and equality. But he also noted that a lot more needs to be done for women to be on an equal footing with men. It's a wrap here from my team and from myself and the team here at the stadium here in Bushbuckridge. We'd like to wish all women of South Africa a happy Women's Day.
Thank you very much. President of the country, Babe Jacob Zuma, President of the ANC Women's League, political parties,
It's Annalie's big day and Peter's still missing. Tonight on Sievendelaan. Platinum Princess Juanita du Plessis is on Nuit for Nuit. And join us for a special Women's Day concert featuring the incomparable Judith Sipuma.